Mark 1, 9 through 11. And it came to pass in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee, and was baptized of John in the Jordan. And straightway coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens open, and the Spirit like a dove descending upon him. And there came a voice from heaven, saying, Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. In his book, The 5 Love Languages, Gary Chapman identifies words of affirmation as a love language. We all like words of affirmation. My dad was a very traditional father. He was not very emotional except at an Ole Miss football game. Even though I knew without a shadow of a doubt he loved me, I was 30 years old when I heard him finally say those words. I can tell you that was an emotional day for me. Jesus did not need words of affirmation, but people needed to know who Jesus was. So God affirmed Jesus Christ. Up to this point in Mark's gospel, Mark has told us that Jesus is both the Messiah and the Son of God. John the Baptist described Jesus as the Mighty One, which was a term that was used for God in the Old Testament. But what does God think about Jesus? Well, let's see. Jesus leaves his home in Nazareth and makes the 30-mile trip to the River Jordan where John is baptizing. John, who does not feel worthy to even loosen the strap of Jesus' sandal, after some hesitancy, according to Matthew's gospel, agrees to baptize him. So they go down into the water, and John puts Jesus under the water. Mark records 3 things that happen as Jesus rises up from the water. First, we see the heavens are opened. When you and I hear these words, we probably think of a door opening to reveal what's on the other side. But the word Jesus that is used here is much more dramatic. The word literally means to be ripped open or to split apart. The same word is used in the Greek translation of the Old Testament to describe the parting of the Red Sea. This word is also used as a metaphor for God breaking into human experience to deliver his people in a number of places in the Old Testament. Second, he sees the Spirit of God, the Spirit like a dove, descending upon him. If we've been in churches with stained glass windows, this comparison of the Holy Spirit with a dove may not be especially remarkable to us, but this imagery was rare in Mark's day. In fact, in all the Jewish writings, we find this image used only one time. But Mark is pointing us back to the beginning of creation. In the very first book of the Bible, Genesis, in chapter 1, verse 2, it tells us that the Spirit hovered over the face of the waters. The verb used there literally means to flutter. So the Spirit of God fluttered over the face of the waters. Just as the original creation of the world was a project of the triune God, Mark wants people to understand the ministry and the mission of Jesus Christ is a task of the triune God. And they are all present here at the beginning of Jesus' public ministry. Third, he hears a voice that tells us what God thinks about his Son. He says, Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. This statement may stir our emotions, much like my emotions were stirred when my dad told me he loved me. However, when God refers to Jesus as his beloved Son, he is affirming the kingship of Jesus. Jesus is the long-promised heir to David's throne. God's words for his Son show Jesus' unique relationship with him, the Father, and gives his unqualified approval of Jesus and his mission. The words, with you I am well pleased, point us back to Isaiah chapter 42, in which God addressed his chosen servant as the one in whom his soul delights and the one on whom he has placed his Spirit. In fact, Isaiah 42 is the first in a series of 4 servant songs that talk about the true servant Messiah. And according to those servant songs, the true servant would suffer greatly in fulfilling God's will. He would die as a guilt offering, and he himself would serve as a sacrificial lamb. Jesus was the Lord's suffering servant. Throughout Mark's gospel, he gives prominence to this truth. We'll see this in Mark 8:31, in Mark 9:30 through 31, in Mark chapter 10, verses 32 through 34 and 45, as well as Mark 15, verses 33 through 39. Jesus' baptism did not change his divine status. In other words, he did not become the Son of God at his baptism. Jesus is the eternal Son of God. Even though Jesus never sinned, he willingly identified with sinful humanity and accepted his role as a suffering servant who would bring about the forgiveness of sins.